Omar Gooding, man, excited to have you back. I feel like I'm in my late 30s, so the time you was like coming up was the time I was watching TV.
Okay.
So it's not like I'm not an older person where it wasn't like I didn't see you as far as a kid actor. I saw
Right.
you as kid actor, as an adult actor, so it's cool to have you on my platform.
Right on. Thanks for having me, brother.
Smart Guy was a show I watched as a kid,
Love it.
and it was one of the. I would say something you said in other interviews that it felt like it was on much more longer than it actually was. Like
hmm
51 episodes is not a lot, but it felt like more. It had more of an
No, no, no,
impact.
no. We did more than 51. We did three
Okay,
seasons. That was back when a season was 25 episodes. So we got closer to 75.
that's fire, man.
We had a lot
That's
of
fire.
episodes. Even, but it felt like we should have kept going. We definitely wanted to. We loved it. We knew right around the end of the third season, rather, that was that. It's kind of funny. There was a whole lot of energy after every season. It was like, yeah, man. We take like our cast photos and the crew and the producers are all smiling. See you next season. See you next season. And then second season, same thing. We had more star power on there, and we could tell it was reaching everybody. Even though we were only on the WB network, we could just feel the excitement. We were on the Disney lot. It was like, see you next season. See you next season. And then the third season rolls around, and halfway through that season, one of the actors has I'll speak plainly. Why not? So our lead, Tahj, I think his main issue was, which it was definitely valid. The show's called The Smart Guy, and he's the smart guy. Let's just keep it a buck. What I mean? So he's like, why isn't he getting paid more than everybody else? You know what I mean? We all took it as we were all getting paid the exact same thing. All of us, from the father to me to everybody, right? And we were cool with that. First season, it's the first season. That's all right. Everybody's gonna get their pay bumps later. Second season, boom, still didn't happen. Now I think the problem was whatever he was gonna do, whatever negotiating should have been done before the beginning of season 3, rather than waiting till the middle of season 3 and then saying, I'm not coming to work today because y'all don't want to pay me no more money. So, and it was all news to the rest of us because we just got scripts and we're like, somebody's missing. There's a whole lot of Marcus and Mo scenes in this one. Really? Yeah. TJ's off at camp. We're like, is he sick? They're like, he's sick of something. And it was one of those things where it was like, oh man, well, shoot, I hope he comes back next week. And he did. And it was like, the show must go on, which had to suck. You're just like, I'm sitting out. It's like, well, all you did is cost yourself another paycheck. And nothing changed. And then we get to the end of the season and it's like, yeah, man, see you next season. And they were like, oh. You can feel it was a little different that time. It wasn't like, yeah, next season, right? And they were like, oh, have a good summer, And it wasn't shocking when it didn't go. And it was just like, And me, the way my career had went, I just felt unstoppable. It was hard not to. I mean, age 10, I booked a show called Wild and Crazy Kids. It runs 3 years. As soon as it finishes, I get hanging with Mr. Cooper the next 5 years. One of the executive producers from Hanging with Mr. Cooper starts a show called Smart Guy. That goes the next 3 years. Like, what I mean? I've just been working every year since I was 12, and then after that ended, I wasn't like, oh man. It was just like, hey, let's party, let's just relax and wait for the next phone call. And sure enough, one came from John Singleton for a movie called Baby Boy, which changed everything.
Yeah, I gotta break down the business of Smart Guy.
Hmm.
The past entertainment, legendary business executive, right? The past,
The past,
Susan, the
yes.
past. Okay,
Suzanne, yeah.
yeah. Ties to original Motown gives you the sense of the legacy there, and
Yeah,
she was able to start a business empire on TV.
absolutely.
Was Disney somehow involved in the production throughout the show? Because I've heard different reports that they
Well,
bought it later, but they also
yeah.
were part of the production while it happened.
Here's the thing, and I kind of had to put this together later too, without like it was like a duh moment when I think about it. But the show aired on the WB. It ran for 3 seasons, and then after it ended, maybe a year or two, maybe um, they launched it on the Disney Channel. So they sent a couple of us to London and different places across the world, I believe. to promote it. And it was like, okay, we got a new Disney launch, for Smart Guy. And I was out there for like 8 days promoting it and doing all the, new promos and stuff. And that's where I think it really took off. Like when I did Baby Boy, the movie premiered, it went to the theaters and it didn't do well in the theaters. But then when BET picked it up, you know what I mean? And they played it every 2 seconds for like 5 years straight, it became this cult classic, right? With Smart Guy, it was seen on the WB. Some people were watching the WB, some not. Some people saying it stood for We Black because it had a lot of black sitcoms on it, And then it gets picked up by Disney, and now people are like, oh, there's Mo from Smart Guy. Hello there, So, but we did film the show on the Disney lot. You know what I'm saying? We were on the Disney lot from the jump. We weren't on the Warner Brothers lot. It was Disney. Warner Brothers lot, we did Hang with Mr. Cooper. And then when I got this, it was like, yeah, well, now you're on the Disney lot. So Disney was always there, but they didn't really pick it up until after it ended.
So we gotta, cause Tahj, shout out to Tahj, because I feel like as a child actor, he's the opposite of what you hear about child actors bugging out after they grow up. He looks like a well-adjusted individual.
Absolutely. Well, the coolest thing about him, in my opinion, is that he went to college after the show and became a running back out in one of them Texas schools. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, yo, little behind, we got a run back. The next time I saw him after the show, when I say I didn't recognize him, I believe I was at an audition. And some kid is in the corner and he's just laughing. He's just looking at me laughing. I'm like, what you laughing at, bruh? Oh, hell no, Tahj! And he just kept laughing and we embraced and laughed and I couldn't believe it. And he was just laughing like, look at Omar. And I was just like, what? He was probably laughing like, because I looked right at him, looked around, signed in, just got about my business. He starts laughing like, yo, it's me. I did not recognize the kid at all. I haven't seen him in a very long time now, but that was right after the show. And very proud of him, man. I know he did the Baby Daddy show and so forth and so on. And, he's still rocking, so good for him.
Yeah, and I kind of want to get into that because Disney is notorious for underpaying people. Yeah. So
yeah, go ahead.
Here's a couple things about Disney that I've read up.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a policy. I read about this through a site that their thing is trying to get to 65 episodes. Because of the way they structure their programming on Disney. Basically, 65 episodes represents a quarter.
Right.
Additionally, they are known to redo a show so that way they can create a new show and reset the pay structure. So that way you can't claim seniority.
That's cold-blooded.
Do you think that the stifling of his pay might have been tied to the Disney structure? Because that's kind of the sense I got. And
from Smart Guy? Well, again, they didn't come into the picture until after the show was over.
But it was on the lot.
It was on the lot, right? But as far as we knew, we had, because when you do when sitcoms, it used to be structured like this in the 90s. We'd get our script over the weekend. Monday, we would come in and do a table read and go home. Tuesday, we would read over the script with some changes after they've heard it from the table read. And then we do blocking, which is just the movements, where you're sitting, where you're moving, entering, exiting, that sort of thing. Then you go home. Wednesday, you start doing run-throughs. Run-through is when you run through the entire show, scene by scene, in order for all of the producers. And then you go home. Thursday, same thing, rehearse, and then a run-through for the network. And then Friday, we would film in front of the live studio audience. So we knew who our producers were. When the network came in, what network are you on? We're on the WB. So it was the WB network. That's who all was involved. You have producers and you have your network. And your agents, your lawyers and all that and so forth and so on. Disney wasn't factored into that. You know what I mean? The lot, I believe, was just a place that we filmed. So I'd have to look at our contracts 30, 40 years ago, wherever it was, to see. I was like, oh, it was Disney. Oh, now I knew. But when they said, yo, Disney picked up the show, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. They, I got no complaints with Disney paychecks now. I got to tell you.
Sure.
Even, for one, if you just take Smart Guy, and it's funny, so you're going to have me do some research later. I'm like, wait, maybe the season was shorter than I thought. Now, when I did sign to Disney, one thing I was curious about was residuals, right? Because I was like, okay, I got a Smart Guy show. I know them checks are coming in. Okay, that's good. Now, what about the Disney Channel? Because our show was shown on the Disney Channel and on Disney Plus, and it was shown like 7 times a week. I'm like, that's a lot of residuals. And they were like, no, check the fine print. That's why your paycheck is looking good, because you ain't gonna see no residuals for a long time. And I said, damn. Then when the strike hit, it changed all of that. And the residual checks was pouring in almost as good as the regular check. So again, I love that mouse. And I wish we went I wish we went a little longer than 1 year.
No, that's fine. The reason I would love if you go back and look at them contracts and see what was Disney's involvement, just because I know Tahj was a child actor. And like Hannah Montana said that, when she was a child, she was paid $8,000 per episode in her first season. So I wonder
that's low.
If the business infrastructure of Smart Guy was emulating more of a Disney.
Well, we got more than 8,000, I'll tell you that.